Hi, welcome back. In this segment, we're going to talk about sentence structure. Not as bad as it sounds, but it's the first of the 5 steps of creating clear logical arguments. And that's putting our sentences that comprise the argument into a categorical form, which is really just splitting them up into a subject phrase and predicate phrase. If you remember from 3rd grade, a little while ago, but we're going to do a review here. And by the way, any sentence can be structured in categorical form. You can look in the endnotes here at the end of this segment. You see the work of Summers and Engelbrecht's and some seminal work in the new syllogism. So let's start out. So we're dealing with the first step of the 5 steps. And when we're doing the categorical form, what you have is each sentence premise of the logic bridge, line of reasoning, consists of 3 parts. The subject phrase of the premise, and here you can see here the end cap of the span, the predicate phrase of the same premise, right here, another end cap, and you don't have to remember this word, the nexus of predication that joins them. But that's the span right here. You can see, we'll have more examples in a moment, but here we've divided, for example, the sentence, the president is a natural-born U.S. citizen. We've parsed it into the president in the subject column, and is a natural-born U.S. citizen in the predicate column. So if you remember back from Schoolhouse Rock on TV and the tale of Mr. Morton, I can't sing it for you, but the subject is a noun phrase that's a person, place, or thing. It's who or what the sentence is about. And the predicate is the verb, actually the verb phrase. That's the action word that gets the subject up and out. And that's our distinction between the subject phrase and the predicate phrase. And that's how we're going to put all our sentences into that simple basic form. And since any sentence can be put into a categorical form, it works quite well. So these are just some examples of parsing sentences into their subject phrase and their predicate phrase halves. Here we have, in the subject column, the president as the subject, and beginning with the verb, is a natural-born U.S. citizen. Here's our next example. The newspaper is the subject, and published a false birth announcement is the predicate column. Here's our 3rd example of the subject-predicate structure. Here we have the subject is the governor, and the predicate is had personal knowledge of the birth. Our next example, in the subject column, the birth certificate, and the predicate column was authentic. And our last example on this slide, the constitutional requirement is the subject, and was fulfilled is the predicate. So being able to parse or divide your sentences into the subject-predicate form is the first requirement of the 5 in using the logic bridge. Now, we've got the subject and the predicate, but we also have the span between those two. And we'll call that the nexus. Here we go. The nexus. The nexus span between the subject and predicate end caps represents the relationship between the two parts of the premise. So, another way of saying it is the strength of that relationship, the strength of this span right here, represents an individual's subjective perception of the amount, the load of certainty or believability, acceptability, or likelihood of the truth of that premise that it can support. So, and we'll work quite a bit on this, but this represents how believable a person believes that any particular premise is true. And of course, the stronger this is, the larger amount of certainty can travel across it. Now, as we go through different examples, the subject, the predicate, the nexus, it'll become clear. So don't worry right now. It's through its use with examples that you'll begin to see their application. Thank you.